ever found it hard to understand what someone is trying to tell you? I know I have. But sometimes it's just about paying more attention. One time, when Samson was going to the quarry, he coupled up to coaches instead of trucks. The other engines tried to tell him he'd made a mistake, but Samson ignored them and took passenger coaches to pick up some rocks. If I'd paid more attention to what the monkey was trying to tell me in the first place, I might have realized that he wanted to go home. And I might have seen the spilled coconuts in time to save them from being squashed. It's important to pay attention when someone is trying to tell you something. And it's good to ask questions if you don't understand. But right now, I need to pay attention to the station master.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go!
See you next time! Learning new things is fun, but sometimes we all need a little bit of help to understand something new. When Dowager Hatt tried to run the railway, she kept on making mistakes and caused a lot of confusion and delay before Emily helped her learn which engines were the right ones for each job. Nia didn't know how to read numbers, so Annie and Clarabelle taught her. Nia is a very clever engine, and she learned very quickly. Sometimes everybody needs help, and everybody should be given the chance to learn new things. Maybe you'll learn something new today too. It could be reading or singing or learning about numbers, or even how to move a cow when she's blocking the line.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go!
See you next time! When Rebecca came to Sodor, she worried that the others were better than she was. Rebecca tried very hard to do her best, but I know that sometimes when I try too hard, I make mistakes. When I first came to Sodor, I left the station before I was coupled up to my coaches. And when Rebecca came to Sodor, she kept leaving earlier than she was supposed to. And soon, she was so early that passengers were missing their trains, and she was getting in the way. And that was a mistake. Being too early was not so useful after all. But it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes them. That's how you learn to do things better. Just like I did.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go!
See you next time! Have you ever played a game where you pretend something is real when it isn't? I like to use my imagination to pretend, but sometimes it's hard to know what is really true. One time, I imagined I had wings like an aeroplane so I could fly. But it was only pretend. I didn't really have wings. Merlin thinks that he can make himself disappear. But he can't really make himself invisible. It's only pretend. Sometimes it's important to know what's real and what's pretend. But playing make-believe games can still be fun.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go!
See you next time! Have you ever played a game that got out of hand? Sometimes a game can stop being fun, or even hurt someone's feelings. One time, Diesel played a trick on Paxton by getting all the Diesels to hide from him. Paxton was very upset and thought all the Diesels had left the island. Another time, I was racing with Max and Monty. It was good fun, until they took the game too far. They raced over the railway line and could have caused an accident. Bill and Ben thought their game of Hunt the Truck was very funny, until they were the ones who couldn't find their truck. Edward was trying to teach them that it's not a good game unless everyone who's playing can enjoy it.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! It can be hard for animals to find places to live when there are so many people around all the time. I remember when Luke made friends with a young deer. But the quarry was far too noisy for the little thing. The peace and quiet of the Ulfstead Castle grounds was a much better home for the deer. Rajiv and I both wanted to see a tiger. And so did a lot of other people. But the tigers didn't really want to be seen, and it wasn't always a good idea for people to find them either. Sometimes, the best way to help animals live happily and in peace is by leaving them and their homes alone.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! How do you feel when you don't do something right the first time? Sometimes I get upset. The first time I pulled the troublesome trucks, they convinced me to go too fast, and I couldn't slow down. So I crashed. I felt very silly, but I didn't give up. I kept on pulling those trucks until I got much better at it. And when I was in China, I got upset when Yongbao told me I had stopped a runaway truck the wrong way. But then he taught me a better way. And with some practice, I learned the best way to stop a runaway truck. So, if you're learning something new and you don't get it right the first time, don't get upset. Just keep on trying.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! Sometimes we throw things away that can still be really useful. Reg loves finding ways of reusing old scrap. One year, he even made himself a Christmas tree from scrap. And Duck is good at reusing things too. When the school at Harwick was damaged in a storm, Duck went looking for a coach to take the children to another school. He found poor Dexter abandoned on a siding. It was Duck's idea to turn the old coach into a classroom, which meant Dexter was really useful again. So before you decide to throw something away, stop and ask yourself, what would Reg do? And see if it could be repaired, recycled, or reused.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! It's fun to show off what you can do, but too much showing off can get you into a lot of trouble. Spencer was so busy showing off to a very important passenger that he ended up taking him to the clay pits instead of Knapford. James thought it was very important which colour he was painted, but no matter what colour he was, he couldn't stop showing off, even in his dreams. In the end, James realised that he had to stop showing off if he didn't want to have another crash. Sometimes showing off makes you forget to be careful, and that can cause lots of problems.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time!